This is my very first spoiler talk for a video game. That's exciting. Yeah, Star Wars Jedi Survivor has been out for a little over a week now, and man, I love this game so much, I have got to talk about the spoilers in here. So that is a huge spoiler warning. If you have not yet beaten Star Wars Jedi Survivor, then you should not be watching this video, because I will be ruining what happens in the story, including at the end. So yeah, that is your warning, you have been warned. I'm not going to be going through the entire game's story like step by step. I'm just going to be talking about the stuff that I remember where I was like, oh my god. There are just things in this game's story that I really want to talk about. So let's go. I mean, first off, the game starts out on Coruscant, so immediately you're like, what are we doing back here? Turns out Cal Kestis is on a mission. He's working for Saw Gerrera, who we remember was in Fallen Order. He's not in this game at all, at least not physically. He is in the databank, but I do like that he at least got a mention here. But the Ninth Sister comes back. Remember the Ninth Sister, the Inquisitor from Fallen Order? I guess she didn't die. She's come back looking for revenge. Basically, this is the only Inquisitor fight in the entire game. And man, the way it ends really sets the tone for the entire rest of this game. Because Cal finishes the fight by knocking her block off. He cuts off her head. I was like, holy shit. And yeah, that really does set the tone for Cal's emotional journey in this game. Which a big part of it is temptation by the dark side. Pretty much what I think the sequel trilogy was trying to do with Rey, but they didn't really. This story with Cal really does the whole temptation thing right. I'll get to that later on. So yeah, like I said, the story starts off, the crew is separated, the crew from Fallen Order, Grease, Marin, Cere. They're off doing their own things, but we do meet back up with them, and we learn what they have been up to. Grease is on the planet Kobo. He's opened up Pyloon's Saloon, named after his great-grandmother, I love that. And it's a pretty cool hangout spot. I mean, I didn't really much care for the whole gardening sub-activity, or like meeting people throughout the galaxy and, recruiting them to hang out at Pyloon's. In fact, most of the side quests I pretty much just ignored in my first playthrough anyway. I didn't really much care for them, because the main story was so damn intriguing. But yeah, my next playthrough I'll probably do some more side missions. Marin went off to explore the galaxy on her own terms, and Cere went to Jedha to rebuild the Jedi archives. Yeah, the planet Jedha. We remember Jedha from Rogue One. That was a nice surprise to see in this game. I didn't know that was coming. And it's great. We go there looking for Cere, and who do we run into first? Marin. Marin shows up like the complete badass she is. I'll never forget seeing her in this game for the first time. I was like, Marin, because I'm in love with that character. Tina Ivlev is awesome as Marin. Eventually, while we're exploring, we come across this droid who calls herself ZNA4. Turns out this is a droid from the High Republic era, as is one of our main villains in this story, Dagan Gera. Yeah, so him being a big part of the game, I guess I should talk about him here. He's a former Jedi from the High Republic era who fell to the dark side, and this is the whole aspect of the Star Wars universe that I was really curious about because I didn't know much about it. I'm talking about the High Republic era. Because it has been mentioned a few times in different Star Wars lore, but never really fully explored beyond those books that I've never read. So we get some flashbacks in this game of Dagan Gera and another Jedi, Centauri Kree. They were Jedi during the High Republic, and we learn that there's this planet called Tanalorr, which is in the Kobo system, but it's not so easily accessible. There's this whole like space maze, kind of like the Kessel Run in Solo: A Star Wars Story. Point is, Tanalorr is not an easy planet to get to, and therefore, during this time, it's free of Imperial control. The Empire can't get to it. So to us good guys, we're like, hey, this is a planet free from the Empire, we can just go there and live. Sounds good to me, so now we have our goal. So let's go find Cere because she might know something about this. So when we're on Jedha, we've met up with Marin. We eventually get to the Jedi archives and we see that Eno Cordova is alive? Because he's there and I was like, holy shit. We remember seeing recordings of him in Fallen Order and I thought he was like dead. I mean, I had no reason to believe otherwise. So when he shows up there, I was like, dude, how have you been, man? It was pretty cool to see him reunite with BD-1 and that he trusts Cal Kestis with him. That's great. Of course, one of my favorite things in this game is the Marin Romance. Cause like I said in my spoiler-free review, I was a shipper of them in Fallen Order. And so I love when they're on Jedha and they're going up against that big old power drill, whatever that is. And Marin's like, do you trust me? And Cal's like, of course. And then she goes in for a kiss and I was like, yeah! I love to see it. But then that led to one of the most awesomely cinematic parts of the game, is where Cal's going all over the place, he's running on walls, going through those portals, he's flying. That was so cool. Although I'll admit, it took me a while to actually do that in the game my first time. Like when I first tried to jump into that portal, I kept falling. It happened like 5 times. I was like, am I doing something wrong? I don't know, because that's when you learn the mid-air dash that's in that scene. Marin actually teaches it to you. And I eventually, of course, got it right. But it's cool, though, that mid-air dash, because you can also use it to go through those green, laser walls, whatever those are, which helps you get to other places. That's pretty cool. And I love the scene where they're looking out over the landscape at night, and Cal says to Marin, he's like, look, the Jedi Order is gone. They had their ways, but they got some things wrong.
I know what I want now.
Took you long enough.
This is actually something I've wanted to see in Star Wars for a very long time. I've wanted to see a Jedi admit that the Jedi Order got some things wrong. Cause that's completely true. We fans, we've known that for years. The Jedi Order was very flawed. They had some rules that straight up did not have to be rules. Like attachment is forbidden. I've always found that to be bullshit. Why can't a Jedi have a girlfriend? That just never made sense to me. So Cal's like, you know what? Fuck it. There is no order anymore, so come here. I love that. Let Cal have what he wants. Cause, you know, she wants it too. And I love the two of them together because they are a badass couple of warriors. Any scene where you're taking on enemies and Marin is there helping you out, you really feel the bond with whoever you're fighting alongside because it's not just Marin who helps you out at certain times. Bode does sometimes as well. Which Bode, alright, I'll get to this right now. Yeah, it turns out Bode is a son of a bitch because he's a traitor. I'll be honest, I did not see that coming at all. I know some people did, like some people online I heard were like, yeah, that was really obvious. But I was just completely oblivious to it. When he turns and he takes his gun and he shoots Eno Cordova and kills him, I was like, oh, what the fuck? I trusted you. I didn't at first because you were new, but over the course of the game, like I said, I built rapport with him to the point where I was like, alright, he's cool. And then he pulls a fast one on all of us. I was like, you son of a bitch. Yeah, I was like Kylo Ren. Traitor! And so you get on the speeder and you go after Bode, which is a pretty cool chase scene. You're going throughout Jeddah, and not only is he a traitor, but he's also a Force user. He's a former Jedi turned to the dark side like Dagan Gera. It turns out after the Clone Wars, the Empire got a hold of him, and so he did jobs for them because he has a daughter named Kata. So it's like that. As long as my daughter remains safe, I will do what you require of me. It was leverage, pretty much. And so in his betrayal, Bode has called down the Empire to the archives on Jeddah. And dude, this scene, this right here is like where shit gets real. Cause now you're playing as Seer. And I swear to God, this was so awesome. You're playing as Seer Junda, you have your single-bladed blue lightsaber, and you are just wasting stormtroopers left and right. And eventually it gets to the point where they are just closing in, there's no hope anymore. So Seer goes to BD-1 with some archive data, and of course it's the classic Star Wars scene where she's like, alright droid, take this data and get out of here. Classic, man, in the original movie and Force Awakens. And it's funny, having my BD-1 colored like R2-D2, my first playthrough I was like, that's perfect. And plus it does mirror the original movie because as soon as the droid gets out of there, who should show up but Darth Vader himself? Yeah, Darth Vader shows up again. I didn't know that was gonna happen. I was like, holy shit, he's back again. And he's like,
it is delusion to think that anything you did to the Inquisitors made a difference. The fortress stands, and I am here for you.
Oh shit. Vader's here for revenge. And yeah, they have a fight. And this fight, oh my god. This is Seer Junda, Jedi Master, versus Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith. And those two go at it, man. It's a great fight, and Seer actually does some real damage to him. Which, yeah, I've seen people say that since this game takes place in the same year as the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, this was a tough year for Vader because there are a couple of Jedi in the same year who did some real damage to him. Seer brings down those flaming shelves, and so he comes out and he's all kind of burnt up a little bit. His armor's burnt up anyway. And Seer does the jumping move, she comes down, and she gets impaled. I love that reveal. It pulls out and it shows that her lightsaber missed, and Vader just ignited his and it impales her. Yeah, Seer Junda dies in this game. Holy shit, when Cal eventually gets there and discovers her body, that was rough to watch. And I like that he saw what happened through psychometry. His ability to see things that happened in the past. That's a really cool way to emotionally tell the story. Genius, really. And this is all Bode's fault. He brought the Empire here. So, in the words of the great Steve Rogers,
let's go get this son of a bitch.
And so off we go. We eventually do find him on Tanalorr. I'm gonna skip the whole Nova Garen part because really that was elongating the story of the game. I mean, I guess you get some backstory to him there, but I guess it's not really worth touching on here. We find him and his daughter on Tanalorr, which Tanalorr is a beautiful planet, oh my god. The color scheme with the purples and the blues, really good art design. And this, again, this is where the story gets real. Cal and Marin are fighting Bode, and the part where Bode is just going to town, just pummeling, beating the shit out of Cal. BD goes up and tries to save him, and Bode just swats him away. Right there, I was like, oh, you hurt the droid, you're in trouble now, bitch. And so Bode is pummeling Cal, it fades to black, and then this text appears on the screen, embrace the darkness. I love this. Because it's kind of in the same style as when you die and the text says respawn, but instead that's not what's happening. You're like, holy shit, Cal is being tempted by the dark side. And you actually get to use a little bit of dark side of the Force in this game. For me, it's PS5, so when you hit L3 and R3, you know, for most of the game, that would like slow people down around you with the Force. But from now on in the game, you hit those buttons and yeah, people slow down, but but then this dark side ambiance starts going on around you, and you're limited to your single blade lightsaber, but you are just slicing dudes down. Shit's crazy. Cause you remember, Seer Junda also had that same temptation from the dark side. She used a little bit when she was fighting Vader in Fallen Order. That dark side temptation has always been like one of the most interesting and intriguing stories ever told in Star Wars. And this game did it really, really well. The fight between the good guys and Bode ends when Bode is force choking Marin. I was like, you better not kill off Marin, EA. I swear to God, that would suck. And yeah, she lives, and Cal gets his blaster, and it's funny, Bo gets his blaster, and he tries shooting Cal, but he's like, oh crap, out of ammo. So yeah, Cal shoots first. He ends up shooting Bo twice, so yeah, he's dead, orphaning his little daughter. Just that whole arc between Cal and Seer and Marin and Bode and Kata, that really made the game for me. That made it like one of the best Star Wars stories I've seen in years. I mean that shit, dude. This shit is excellent. Like, considering everything I have seen in Star Wars, from movies to shows to games, this game's story has to be up there among the best stories in all of Star Wars, period. Dead ass. Which makes me really, really hope that the third chapter sticks the landing like you have no idea. But yeah, that's where the story ends. On Tanalorr, the crew decides to adopt Kata as one of their own. Which, alright, Kata as a character, granted we don't have a whole lot of time to get to know her, but I like her. She's kind of stoic. You feel like she has seen some shit in her life already. Shit that no child should have seen at that age. I mean, her mother was already dead before the events of this game, and her father was working for the Empire. Not the best life for a child to live. So now she's part of the crew. I feel like, you know what this reminded me of actually? It reminded me of a couple of things. One, it reminded me of the Guardians of the Galaxy video game that came out a couple years ago with Nikki Gold. And also it reminded me of Thor Love and Thunder, where the main character kills the bad guy and adopts his daughter. Cause that's exactly what happened here. And man, that final scene with the funeral, they have this long take that's like 4 minutes long. Oh my god, talk about emotional right there. That's what left me going, I am now emotionally drained after playing this game. Where Cal is like, I'm scared of what happens next, because I almost lost myself. And this projection of Seer comes up. I don't think that's a Force ghost, I actually think that's psychometry. We see Seer come up and she's like, Cal, guide her through the darkness. You get the feeling she's talking about Kata, which is great. And so Cal walks off, the camera pans down to Seer's lightsaber on the ground, and it cuts to black, and that's the end. And the way that scene was just drawn out, I was like, A+. That was brilliant. And so yeah, now that's the crew. Cal and BD-1, Grease, Marin, and Kata. We're now all hanging out on Tanalorr, and we're gonna call the Hidden Path, you know, the program for Jedi who are hiding. We're gonna call them to come over here so they can live happy. And that's where the main story of this game ends. Awesome! Can't wait to see it all crumble in Chapter 3, cause you know that shit's gonna happen. But in conclusion, Star Wars Jedi Survivor is awesome, like I've been saying. At this point, I can't really praise this game any more than I already have. One of the best Star Wars stories I've seen in years, and I pray to the Force that Chapter 3 is awesome as well. Alright, so Star Wars Jedi Survivor, what did your Cal Kestis look like? What did you have him wear? What color lightsaber did you have him use? What stance? And what was your favorite scene in the game? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm actually playing Fallout New Vegas for the first time now. Hey, a friend recommended it to me, and it was cheap, so I'm playing it. Peace!